and welcome back to another episode of Talks with Tay with your favorite homegirl here, The Taylor Made. It is the season 2 finale, and honestly, this episode is definitely going to be more on the reflective too. Because before I start, I just gotta give myself a round of applause and god dang on a pat on the back because season 2 was definitely like that. I definitely got to see more of what I wanted out of Talks with Tay coming to fruition, and that, y'all, it's just something about making your dreams your reality that really turn you up. And I give a lot of that too. Like the last year and a half of my life, I want to say, has been me authentically going from things constantly changing and stuff in my life, for me figuring out how to change, to me, authentically growing. And I really feel like I want to kind of hone in this episode on the difference in change versus the difference in growth. And I feel like, change is the inevitable in life. Like, it's going to happen regardless, whether we choose for things to change or we don't choose for them to change is going to happen. And for me, a lot of the piece of my puzzle with my journey with self was, I was doing really great, and I think changing things about myself, as in, I think change and like self-awareness are kind of well, I'm gonna say they one and the same, but they go hand in hand as far as where they take you at on your journey or your process with yourself. Is change is when you start to recognize areas in your life that you need to improve, characteristics about yourself that you need to improve, with relationships and stuff that you need to change. Like change brings about that self-awareness, but it's in the accountability part. It's in the growth aspect of things that we're really starting to see. Ourselves truly become better. And honestly, I feel like, all of season 1 and a little bit on into season 2 was really just me kind of getting into that exact process, what it looks like when your life starts to transition from you just doing the things necessary to change and create better environments for yourself, versus when you start doing the things necessary to grow with yourself, and you start to find and really get that internal peace, that internal value, that internal worth with yourself. And I don't want to say this like either process is right or wrong, but I will say this as in, you can have change without growth, but you cannot have growth without change. And so I think a lot of times, like when we're working with ourselves, what we tend to do is like we'll change things about ourselves. Like for me, a big piece that I've had to learn was like, I was doing good in changing my environments. I was doing really great, at learning how to cut people off. Doing really great, at learning how to walk away from things and whatnot. But when it came to me having to grow, I had to start learning things like, I hit on this in one episode, like just simple changing your purpose and stuff about yourself, about your situations, how you handling life. And it was like, I noticed I couldn't say things like, okay, like, I want to change and grow in this relationship, but I'm going to cut them off because they doing X, Y, and Z to accept me. And then sometimes, growth is more so embodying that walking away, that learning how to let things go. And I think a lot of the times, like, when we sit and we break it down like this and we really think about it, like this is why so many times we get stuck, so many times why we find ourselves going through the same cycles. It's because we are authentically doing the things necessary to change, but not the things to grow. Another example would be like, for the longest I would always cry, I'm broke, I ain't got no money. And then it was like, I started getting the better jobs, I started having, better pay, started making more money. But what I realized in that was like, while things had changed, as far as the amount of money I was making, as far as the growth and the things that was necessary for me to do it myself, as in to see that money start being reflected in my finances becoming more secure, becoming more stable, was like I had to adapt and learn financial literacy and stuff. It wasn't just make more money. It was like, okay, now like the change in it was going to find getting better jobs. The growth in it was adapting financial literacy. And so it's just like, as I really have been taking in this year, taking in everything that I've been doing with myself, like just really like locking in and understanding, like it's nothing wrong. It is nothing wrong at all with having to admit and take a pause and step back and say, you know what, like I need to do a little bit more work within myself. And like that is where I think that very first episode of Talks with Tay started coming in. That it was just like recognizing, understanding that it was time for me to like do better. And that was more reflective. Like I was telling myself, like, y'all, I have a really bad problem with, I will change the things that I need to change as far as like the people I involve myself with. Like I just said, I'll go and get a better job. I can do things like move around. I could do things like distract myself with other things, whether it be working, whether it be new relationships, different people, myself. But a big struggle piece that I had found with myself was just like, as all of these things were changing in my life, and it hit a point where they just weren't changing and stuff, in the sense of like, me going from like bad things to good things and stuff or whatnot. But like me really, because I was changing, walking away from relationships and the people and the things that didn't serve me the purpose, and I started, finding the things that did. What started to happen was, it was kind of like God got me a little bit, like, the pieces and aspects of myself which I either refuse to truly acknowledge and deal with head on and face first. Like, it was kind of like, how do I say this? It was like, I realized, like, okay, and me now cutting everybody off. Because, I used to be Miss I would cut them off, like, yo, whatever, like, screw you, forget you, like, walk away, leaving people. Like, it was nothing to me. It was nothing with the mindset of, like, people are replaceable. You can just, okay, like, we'll find something better. Like, a girl, miss one, next 15, another one coming. Whether it was a man or a friend, like, I had no problem cutting people off and replacing them. But what I had learned in that was, wow, I was doing great and being able to separate myself and, move away from people and things that didn't serve me. I had not fully done the work that I need to do inside myself. So that way, those new relationships and new people that I met and new things I started to do with myself, they didn't get the baggage or the residue left over from those other situations. And it was just kind of like, I think a lot of the times that kind of what happens with us when things start to change, especially when they start to change for the better, it really does breed like this level of, I feel like, comfortability within yourself, where it's like, things are now getting better, to where it's like, it's not feeling comfortable with yourself. Like, okay, like, you might not be around and stuff, fake friends and stuff or whatnot, or people that don't fully and authentically support you, but now you're around people that do love you, that do support you, that are authentically there for you. And now, it's taking a little bit more work on your end to maintain and keep those healthy relationships and stuff. And so it's just kind of like, I hit this point in this phase where I realized, things were playing out and working for my better, but it was really, them staying that way or me maintaining them more so came from Taylor being willing to really sit and do that internal work, to sit and be uncomfortable with myself. And I think this is why the conversation of triggers is so important, and even more important when we get into just being able to accept the things that people that are and aren't for you, because it's like life is gonna happen. Like I've been saying like 3 times now, change is inevitable. Like, you can't stop it from happening. Life is gonna happen. People change, feelings change, situations change, money change. It's gonna come. Change is going to happen, but it's actually being able to get through, work through, and stay consistent through that change with yourself that really makes or breaks people. And I don't want to say it like people choosing to change and not grow is always necessarily bad, because honestly, I think at least for me, I can only speak for myself. I do think like there's a lot of benefit in like changing things about yourself and changing your surroundings and stuff. But it does hit a point where you have to ask yourself like, what do I really want? Is there more? And so it was stuff like, I started realizing like, well, yeah, I did enjoy and stuff, and I liked it, being able to say like I got real friends and stuff around me. I got real love around me. I find healthier relationships and stuff. I find the people that truly respect me for me and stuff, and not my body and whatnot. I think for me it was just like, realizing I didn't want, to just have those things, but I wanted to keep them as well. And so like making that decision in my mind that like I ain't gonna say I no longer desire for things to change, but now it's like, I desire for things to be able to grow and find consistency and stuff in them. So it's just like, this last year and a half, like I won't get too deep into like all the pieces that go into this process. That's what y'all can go back and watch season 1 for. But it's like this last year and a half, like wow, I really, I have been holding myself to, to not only staying true to me, but staying true to my process. Which means, when things didn't play out how I intended them to, like continue to keep having faith and stuff in myself, keep putting my best foot forward, keep loving myself, keep having, my boundaries and whatnot. When I started, making more money and whatnot, I started figuring out a budget. That means keep having, the patience to see things come out into play, because credit don't get fixed in one day. Like, you don't learn how to pay bills in one night, and hell, even in 1 year, like I'm still learning and stuff, how to pay things and how that all works out. And so, like I've intended this episode to be like this long throw out thing where like I really break down like, this is change and this is growth, but it's just like, it's ongoing. Like honestly, like it doesn't look one way. I'm only speaking to y'all from the way things have looked and digested and are perceived from me. But I kind of think too, this is like the whole purpose in like TalksWithTay. Is what I'm starting to understand is a lot of people be afraid to admit these things and afraid to say things like, hey, like, yeah, I was changing. I did do the things necessary to change myself, but I was not growing. I did authentically do the work and stuff, the internal work and stuff that I needed to get myself to where I currently am. And it's so crazy because it's like, that's why they tell us to like be mindful of distractions and quick fixes and stuff in life and whatnot. Why spending time, authentic time by yourself is so important, because if you're not careful, your attempts to like change or grow with yourself will result in you only changing. Because what we tend to do is like we start changing, and then when that better and that good come, it's like we latch on or lock on so tightly to it or whatnot. Or sometimes, I won't say we settle for it, but we get comfortable with it. I've been trying not to use words like settle and stuff like that, because I think it's a little demeaning, when somebody's trying to work with themselves to tell them that they settling. But really, sometimes it be not that you really settled, but you might have thought that opportunity or that person was for you, and then you find out that it wasn't. So it wasn't really a settlement, but it was just, something that wasn't for you. For sure, for sure. And so it's like, just as I've been taking all of this in and really truly reflecting, like I've had a lot of gratitude too. Like I said this on the episode with Cass, like I just have been very thankful this year. Not only thankful just for myself, but thankful for the love of people that's around me. Because what I've been starting to realize is when you start to apply things with the mindset that you want them to grow and that you don't want them to change, you start to realize like everybody don't have that mindset to grow. Like everybody wants to change their situation. Like I kid you not, every broke person want to make money. Every single person, one of you, well, just about, I won't say every, there are some people that are 100% fine and have no desire for commitment and marriage. But I like to believe, or at least based off the pocket of people I know that are single and whatnot, they desire to have healthy love, healthy marriages, healthy relationships and whatnot. There are people that, desire to have better health, whether it be, like me, you want to lose weight and get a bigger butt, or you just want to gain weight, or you just better yet, you just want to eat better. It don't really matter. You desire to change those things and whatnot, that create and implement, healthier boundaries, healthier standards and stuff in your life. But the work that it takes to grow into those things, because that's really what it is. That's really what it boils down to, the choice that you make. You either going to choose, you're going to either let it, I won't say choose, because like I said, change it never. You either going to let things change, or you're going to choose for them to grow. And I've been learning a lot of my life was me just letting things change. Like I was okay and fine with everything changing, but now I'm choosing to grow, and it's just like, dang, like this is, woo! I see why people shortchange themselves. I see why people is okay with changing their day to day. I see why people go in and out relationships. Shoot, I see why I used to go in and out relationships. I see why I used to quit jobs where it's like I might have been making money there, but then I go quit a job and be doing the same thing, making the same amount, maybe $1 or $2 more, but still having the same results and stuff with my finances. It's because it's like, bro, you chose to change every day. You didn't choose to grow. And so like this year, I really have been growing through things, and man, they ain't lying either when they tell you it's really lonely at the top. Like, y'all, it is kind of crazy because previously, like I said, when you go up for change with everything, you change it. Like I was like, oh, okay, like yeah, like I done cut everybody off, I done did all this, I done did all that, and now it's like, now that I'm growing with stuff, it's like, all right, so like now it's not a thing of me needing to cut off people or separate from them, but the more so me having to learn how to let go and create space and time for myself. So that way, the baggage and the debris from when I did have to cut people off and cut things off and end stuff, it don't spill over, it don't come with me into these new situations and stuff. When I get into my feelings and emotions, so I don't emotionally react and stuff, it's like really learning how this is not a moment where you gotta tell them, hey, look, I'm going through something, I need to cut you off right now. It's like, hey, look, yo, I need some space. Or sometimes being like, you know what, I'm not in the headspace to articulate or verbalize myself to you. I need some time for me. Or sometimes, you got the people where you ain't even gonna say nothing to them. You can just come back around. Now, I will say, in that, what I've been learning about that, just I'm not gonna say that, I'm gonna just do it and come back around. Like, you do have to own the accountability and responsibility that comes from, like, you can very much choose to isolate yourself and not say something and tell people and stuff what's going on or why you feeling that way. But there's also, like, if they choose to respond to you in a way where it's like what you did made them feel negative, you can't really, So I try not to do that, because I used to do that too. Like, I used to be like, you know what, I feel like I'm over explaining myself in the name of boundaries. Again, in the name of things trying to change, it's like I feel like I'm over explaining myself. I'm just giving way too much. So I'm just not gonna say that. I'm gonna just do it. And then it's like you go do it, and then you come back, and then like them people not there. They had different feelings, and they're like, yeah, like I mean, I kind of feel like you just, you know, you ghosted me, or you up and left me for like 2-3 months, and you're like, no, listen, it wasn't like that. I wasn't trying to be like that. Like, I really just had a lot going on, and I didn't want to put it on your plate, or I was trying to practice not having emotional baggage. I was trying not to, you know, emotional dump on you. It wasn't nothing like that. But I've learned that, you know, like, that's why communication is so key, so imperative. That's why, you know, not just changing yourself, but growing with yourself is so important, because a lot of the times the reason why we can't get to that point of having these conversations with others, or at least with ourselves sometimes, is because we don't sit and get comfortable with ourselves. We don't sit and go through the growing pains and stuff or whatnot, because, you know, again, I use like friends and money. Like, that's 2 days that's been like imperative to me this year. And so it's just like, you know, with my money, it was just like, you know, I didn't want to admit to people like, hey, like, yeah, I may be making more money, but I still be paying shit late. Like, I still owe people money. Like, the bill collector's still calling. I haven't got, you know, routine and stuff with that. And that's just because, like, you know, in that growth and that accountability with it, where it was like, yeah, okay, like, I had done the things necessary to change and put myself in a position to get better jobs, but I hadn't done the things like, you know, my splurging, cut down on that and stuff, which again gives into my impulses. And the impulses that I get, why do I become impulsive, is because when I get overwhelmed or overstimulated with emotions and circumstances, I tend to make emotional decisions. And so it takes a little bit more in me to recognize and say, hey, like, you know what, you had a rough day today, and rather than filling up your Amazon cart and stuff and whatnot and cashing out, like, why don't we do something like, you know, sit down and process how we feel? Why don't you do something like just sitting and feeling, you know, that today was just an off day. Sometimes you don't have to do anything about it. While sometimes, yeah, you do gotta do stuff about how you feel or what you got going on. Sometimes you ain't gotta do nothing with it, but just feel it. Like, I have a whole podcast episode again. Like, I'm telling y'all, tune in to season 1 if you need me to break down some of these subjects, some of these points. Like, yeah, like, this is for the people that's been here. And if you just get here, like, I hope you get something out of it nonetheless. But anyway, back to the point, back to the story. It's just like, you know, as I really have been sitting in this transformative period, I think, or this realization period, that, you know, I needed to do better in order to keep growing with myself and not just to keep changing with myself. Like, that's all I got for y'all. Like, this episode, I'm definitely recording it. By this time, I will be having released my essay episode. And honestly, like, y'all, that took me a long time to record and put out, because it was just like, when it came from healing and growing from that, like, I started realizing stuff like, you know, while I was making the necessary changes and stuff to grow and to heal from being sexually assaulted, I don't think I had 100% done the internal work. And that wasn't until I could do things like admit, you know, I was angry, I was mad. I can internally reflect and stuff and stand on and feel my own feelings that came with it. Not just, you know, do things like change the type of relationships and stuff that I had, or change, you know, the standards that I had for them, change the friendships, you know, that I was surrounding myself with, change the school that I was in, you know. It really came from me sitting down and digging deep, real deep with myself, to truly figure out, like, you know, why do I feel this way? Why does this impact me and stuff? And what do I want my story to be from this? Like, you know, did I just want it to be a story where it's like, you know, I changed and things got better? Or do I want it to be a story where it's like, you know, I grew and stuff, I truly healed and became whole from that situation? And I love how Cass have put it out in one of our episodes, like, you know, it's not a thing of healing ever being like complete, because you deal with things like triggers, because change is the inevitable, life keeps happening. Like, something I really had to learn too, and why it's so important to make sure you're able to grow through things and not just change them, or not just be able to, you know, get through change. It's because when that stuff happens, like, this is where we get into like the whole boundaries and finding having people for you. Like, when you get people for you and they're there, they're supposed to help you and love you. Like, a big thing that you have to learn how to do is, when you face your triggers, like, to not resort and go back to the same things that you did, you know, in order to heal and grow from them. And I mean that simply. It's like, you know, in the past for me, it was like, you know, I use this because I done talked about it and hit on it about, me being single, haven't been in a relationship and stuff. Like a big thing that I had to learn this year was a big piece of that came from like, when I did get triggered or like a guy would do something to like upset me and make me mad. Like my first instinct, just like when a friend upset me, make me mad, is to cut it off. Like I'm done. You're not finna hurt me. Like I'm good. I'm gonna cut off and I'm gonna isolate myself. But what I have learned as, somebody who is healing and growing with themselves, it's like, rather than me cutting it out, because all I end up doing is like, and it's so crazy too, because again, like I can't speak for everybody, I can only speak for me. Like my emotions are so freaking huge and big to me, and so a lot of the times, like I would emotionally react to things, emotionally react to people and end things, prematurely before I gave them the opportunity to even change or be rectified. It's just like, coming out with trauma and just, we store it inside our bodies and then our brain get rewired and all that other crazy stuff that they teach. I ain't gonna say crazy, all that other good stuff they teach you in therapy and stuff when we started growing and healing with yourself. And it was just like, I really had to reel myself back in this year and stuff when I did experience the trigger and stuff and realize like, this is the moment where like, you have to have your boundaries and stuff, and not boundaries because you got to cut people off, but boundaries because, you need that time for yourself. You need those moments or those spaces to sit in your feelings. And like that has been really, really hard for me because as somebody who used to want to change everything to avoid their feelings and stuff, like I won't say change, I like to change or replace. So it would be stuff like, again, I'll go back to the point of friends. Like I would change friends and like rather than dealing and sitting in that feeling of like loss or rejection that came from like that lost friendship, it's like I would just replace it with a good friend or a better friend. Like I would literally go get a friend, or go back. Better yet, that's me sometimes. Maybe when I might not go get somebody new, but go back, to that other friend that has those good qualities and stuff that you want until, like, they do something or something occurs and they make an error mistake and it reminds you of what you just left. And it's just like, kind of like the saying that like you're gonna keep facing the same problems in different people until you really deal with yourself. And that was me for the longest. Like, why does shit keep happening to me? Like that was my whole thing. Why does keep happening to me? Why does keep happening? And it's like because like yeah, like you changing your outside, you changing your circumstances and stuff like that. You ain't really changing on the inside. Like you still avoiding uncomfortable conversations, uncomfortable pieces and stuff of yourself. You still avoiding being by yourself, because I'm not gonna hold y'all, like being 24, being freshly into my career, being that I have no kids, and I don't mean that like no belittlement to nobody with kids, because I think that you the shit with or without them. Like if you the shit, don't really matter. But being that I'm in this position where a lot of people look at me as like accomplished and having it together and stuff, one of my biggest fears has always been like I do not want to be a successful and lonely woman. Like, and it started hitting a point where I was realizing, like, I was going to become a successful and lonely woman because it's like, while I was doing the things necessary to change myself and make my situations better, I was not authentically doing the things to truly heal and grow up myself. And now that I have been doing that, it's like, dang, man, like, this part of why season 2 comes to an end now, because I ain't gonna say I ain't got the words, but I'm still living this phase of life. Everything ain't really, wrapped itself up as to what it looks like when you truly start growing with yourself. And honestly, like that's kind of where TalksWithTay gonna take off, because this kind of new to me too. Like, I can give y'all, like I just gave y'all a whole 2.5 seasons where it's like, we choose change and stuff. And well, I ain't gonna say 2.5 seasons. I gave y'all a whole one full first season. Of what it's like, when you start separating from change and going for growth. I gave y'all a whole second season about what it's like, when you start putting that growth into play and whatnot. And now, like, I'm at this pace, this pace. Well, I mean, this pace too, that word works as well. I'm at this pace to where it's like, now I'm having 100% faith in everything that I do. Because what I've learned is a big piece in being able to grow and being able to feel. Like, and that's, I think, what makes change always like the easier or the more like kind of you'll convince yourself it's 100% right, or you doing what you want to do, because changing shit is so easy. Like it's so easy. Change really is easy. It's not easy in the sense of like I would say change and growth do bring about the same feelings, like the same feelings of like newness, the same feelings of sometimes guilt, shame, same feelings of just not knowing and whatnot. Like change and growth, like they have very similar feelings attached to them, but it's what you do with them feelings, that separates the two processes and stuff. It's like, like I said, did you change and get the better, bigger job and start paying more and, get a better pay? And did you start making the growth necessary in your finances to see, that better paying job paying off? Or did you just change and make more money? So, you know, as I'm learning and I'm still putting the pieces together with myself, I definitely still got a lot more filling out to do. Like, again, like I said, I just kind of got here. I've only been here a year and a half, and while I think I have a lot of things to say and to go off of, this is why I really think, you know, TalksWithTay really gonna start cooking. Like, like this is a whole new perspective of life that I got, and it's not really that it's even much different from like perspectives I've had before, but it's like, you know, I have now the perspective of what it's like when you really want to grow with yourself, not when you just want to change, but when you really want to grow with yourself. And so yeah, as I'm closing out on season 2, I want to say big shouts out, big thank yous to everybody that participated, everybody that came on. Thank y'all. Like, I appreciate it. Like, y'all help me keep growing and stuff. Y'all help show me a lot about myself. I hope y'all saw all the dope stuff within yourselves because, like I said, you know, the Hometown Hero series, like, I really meant that from the core, meant that from the heart because just about every face that y'all saw in that Hometown Hero series has served as some form of inspiration for me to grow and get a little bit more connected to me. And they even more so have been a big piece in me being able to keep doing that and stuff from the love and support that they gave. So big shouts out to y'all, big shouts out to my listeners. And yeah, if y'all can't tell too, like I'm very like chill, laid down this episode, and that's just because again, practicing what I preach, choosing to grow with myself, authentically speaking to y'all. Like this also is like one of the rougher, harder times of the year for me when it comes to dealing with myself and my mental health. So, you know, because I don't just want things to change, I want to keep growing. I gotta practice what I preach and do the things necessary to take care of me. So, over the next 3 weeks, while I will not be so much on screen and stuff, y'all catch a few posts here and there and whatnot from me. I definitely will be more in my bag with myself, fine-tuning and getting together these last little bit of pieces and stuff. Just, you know, giving myself a moment in time to really just bask in things and just accept and to be grateful and thankful, you know, for where I'm at and stuff in life. So, yeah. I hope that y'all enjoyed this season. I hope that y'all enjoyed this episode. Like, I don't know, like when I recorded it, like when I was writing it out, because I've been practicing that too, like so I don't get on here and just be rambling. Like a big piece to me being able to sit and authentically speak to y'all is me sitting and writing things out first, so I can get like the 100 million thoughts out of my head that I be having sometimes. But yeah, you know, I wrote this episode out thinking like I was gonna give this whole like ordeal and this whole like talk. I'm like, okay, yeah, like this is growth, this is change. And while that was like the bulk of it, definitely is coming out way different than what I thought it was gonna be. But that's okay though, because again, growth. So and growth don't always happen how you intended, and it's not linear. So yeah, we gonna roll with it. We gonna go with it. If y'all don't keep I don't know why I shook with that, but anyway, yeah, too. Y'all come back season 3, like, yeah, TalksWithTay, we getting did up. We getting did up big. We're doing it big. We're doing it big. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna be prepping and preparing for that. But more importantly, like, you know, there are moments and times when you gotta log off. And I'm not saying I gotta log off in any other way than just, you know, as I want to continue to grow and be in a moment with things. Like, I just want a moment to just be. And as much as I am loving this, I'm loving the progress and stuff, I definitely, you know, want to keep my rhythm going with myself. So, with that being said, like I just told y'all, I see y'all back in about 3 weeks. I believe that's January 11th. We'll be back for season 3 with TalksWithTay. Could be before then, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's January something. I think it's January 11th. That's when we'll be back for season 3. But that might not be the date. But don't quote me on it. Either way it go, 3 weeks from the time and the release of this episode, we're going to be back up and running, and I can't wait. I'm so excited. Season 3 is hot. It's getting ready. Like, make sure y'all tune in. Make sure y'all come get it. And, yeah, this is TalksWithTay, the podcast where we acknowledge that our shit don't stink, but it should stick. The podcast where we acknowledge, like, you write your own narrative. The podcast where you get to do everything. Like, be you. Be yourself. Yeah, it's really your favorite local neighborhood podcast because, again, like I just told y'all, I can see how way dressed down and, like, super chill today because I want y'all to remember I'm your favorite homegirl. I'm not your therapist, your pastor. I'm not Miss Know-It-All. I ain't Miss Got It All Together. I'm just your homegirl that's just sharing her perspective and the things that she's learning and growing through and changing about herself to better fit and find placement and purpose in this world. So, yeah, I hope that y'all enjoyed this episode, and I will see y'all back for season 3 of TalksWithTay. Thank y'all so much for tuning in.